All right, we're going to go back to that conversation earlier on that we're having with Khula Community Development Project Manager Petros Majola. But Majola, thank you once again for reconnecting with us. I was still talking about the conditions that generally would lead to such. And as you and I are speculating as to what could have been this, but what sort of conditions do these women in these areas find themselves that could lead to such?
In most cases that we come across, I must say that the situation of poverty is always in the light. And one has just said there is a child support grant, but we need to be serious here when we talk about these incidents, because it is not so easy for a child to survive for 30 days just for 500 rand. But now we are saying to these mothers, because poverty is always there, we always talk about it. We go to Ntombizanele, poverty was cited as one of the challenges. We come to a tolling in Butterworth, we talk poverty. We were there, we talk poverty. Even when we were talking to some of the people around the village at Jabavu, they were talking about the condition in which this mother was living in. Now, I'm saying then, let us go back perhaps into those food gardens that we used to do when we were still young, so that we do not only depend on the child support grant. But I want to maintain my stand that a mother would never carry a baby for 9 months and raise the child to the age of 14, and after that decides in her right senses to take the child's life. There is something, and those underlying conditions are the things that we need to uncover and address. That is why I always say, when we are in the villages, there are no resources at all, but we need to make sure that if we have some community structures, we need to take government departments, the NGOs, you name it, we come to the villages so that we talk. We even address the issue of mental health. We also talk on issues of depression and other challenges that a female person might be faced with.
Are there those avenues, though, that are available not only to these women, but to the community when they encounter any problem, be it financial or otherwise, to seek help? Does the community allow, for that sort of assistance?
What I sometimes see, that for those communities to access information, assistance, maybe they have to travel from the villages to the nearest town. You leave at 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and then you get back home in the evening. And sometimes when you are sitting in those places where you come to seek help, you might not be assisted in that particular day. Remember that this small town services a number of villages, and there are long queues, and then you have to go back without getting any assistance. Then the next morning you say, I can't waste all my money for this thing. I'm not going back there again. So what I'm saying is that when we have people who are village-based, let me make an example, a reference to the ward committees, where we are not only depending on social workers, whom you will find with one vehicle waiting for 10 social workers to service different villages. But the ward committees are based in villages, are based in our communities, where we could take them from their department, work with the Department of Social Development, with available psychologists, available non-profit organizations, available civil society structures, so that at least we bring the services to people in the villages, as opposed to having those people traveling to the cities where they spend the full day without getting help.
I mean, apart from the issue of Majola, you just mentioned, of grants, what other solutions are there? I mean, like, for instance, one would say job creation, instead of saying people are depending on grants that are not adequate. Issues of job creation, making sure that the communities themselves are able to take care of themselves. You mentioned issues of, food gardens that used to be done back in the past. Are those elements being looked into to try and alleviate those stresses?
We see pieces of land in hectares that are not utilized. We go to families, we see their gardens not utilized. Well, the job creation or the unemployment is also a challenge. But even if we talk unemployment, you will find a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old who does not even have hope of getting employed. Because if you go into the job market, you'll find that people are looking for young blood. But what I'm saying is that we should not depend on that grant, because, look, the grant of one child is 5%. But you find someone who is working in a decent environment, earning good salary, but still go out to apply for a loan over and above the salary that this person is getting. How much more to a person who is totally unemployed and depend on 500 rand for 2 or 3 or 4 kids? That person does not have sufficient money to cater for the needs. That is why sometimes when we come to them, we find that even that card that a mother would use to access the grant from the ATM is not with the mother. Is sitting with a loan shark somewhere, because the mother cannot survive on a child support card.
So how then do we solve those issues of Majola? I mean, what sort of solutions can communities come up with? Or is it a governmental issues that if communities are failing, then government has to have some sort of intervention? But also, what kind of interventions are we talking about?
Even if government can design fancy policies, it still goes back to the community. It still goes back to families, because sometimes you will find that this particular person does not even get a support from the family. And then when I will refer now to a female person who is looking after kids. When she doesn't get the support from the family, then she will decide to take her life. But before taking my life, let me make sure that my kids are not left behind. Because if I cannot stand in this situation, my kids will not even survive. But now I'm saying, it is not only the problem that needs to be solved by the government. We have a responsibility. We have to come and sit down as communities, at least once in a month, talk about our social ills, talk about the opportunities so that we help each other. But now what I see in all communities, including my own village, no one talks to one another. I talk to myself, I talk to my kids, I talk to my immediate family. But now we need to create some platforms.
But how do we create those platforms, Bob Majola? How do we create that platforms? I mean, if we are aware that we have these issues. Go ahead.
We have our traditional leaders. We have our social development. We have our CDWs, community development workers. Those people must come to villages. Because the people sitting in the village, they need a guide. Someone who will come in and say, what is it that you want to do? And then we will support you. Because people want to do things. That is why in some areas, when these people decide to embark on some projects, they will go and take out a loan. And then at the end of the day, they can't even pay it back. Then they run away. They leave their kids, they just abandon children because they're running away from the loan they have taken. Or they go and change the bank card to say the other one is stolen because this mother is owing some money to someone where she took a loan from. So we are saying we do have some structures. We've got community safety forums, we've got community development workers, we've got ward committees, we've got ward councillors, we've got mayors, we've got social workers, we've got NGOs. Those people must go to villages. I'm talking about something that we do, because we go to villages, we call imbizos, we sit down with them, we talk about their issues, and we ask them, how do you want to get out of the situation? Then they design their own programs. If they say we're going to start registering a cooperative, and then we want funding, we get someone from government to show them how to do a cooperative and assist them with a business plan so that those people can get the funds. The funds are there, but they cannot access those funds because there is no one to guide them in terms of what they should do.
Is there interest, though, from communities to get involved in those? As you say that the avenues are there, the spaces are there that they can use. But is there interest from the communities? Or are they just saying that, well, we'll rely on the 500 rands and the 350s that we're getting from government?
Yeah, no, some of them are really interested. I know, I travel into a lot of villages here, and people talk about this. But these poor people in those communities, they don't know where to go. And when they go to the nearest town, something will exploit them and say, I can assist you, but this is how much you should pay. But that's a free service, but they have to pay, because this person will say, if you are here in Petty Town, which is my hometown, and you can't find what you are looking for, and someone else says, I will go to East London on your behalf, but you have to pay so much. And then you have to cover those travel costs, because that person is trying to help you. It is why other people just sit back and relax and say, well, our apostle is going to give us 350. But people want to do something about their lives, want to embark on programs, but they need someone to come down and say, this is how we should help you.
Majola, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming through to talk to us. That is Petros Majola of the Khula community, just talking to us there about a very worrying trend that is developing where mothers are effectively killing their children and themselves, and the main reason being poverty. Solutions need to be found for that.